Southern California's Inland Talk Express is KCAA News Talk 1050.
This is Dr. Donald Jolly Gabriel on KCAA Radio 1050 on your AM radio dial. We're here. Our show is What's It All About? And back now onto a little bit of different direction. And we have Dr. Jim Dolan on the line with us, who is going to talk to us a little bit about a very, very important issue, which I also like to deal with every couple months, and that is the situation involving psychiatric drugs. And Dr. Jim, are you on the line with us?
Yes, Dr. Jolly, I am.
Amen. I need you to speak a little bit louder.
Can you hear me now?
I think so. Mr. Engineer and Producer, can we hear him well?
Yeah, he's coming in through good.
Okay, good. He says you're coming in good, so that's a good thing. You know, I've been on the line a lot with Dr. Linda and several of the people from the Commission on Human Rights, and we've discussed many times the problems with psych drugs, and I would like your perspective. And give us some background and give us the beginning of whatever you want to give us, and then we can get into some specifics.
Okay. Well, I hate to correct the host right off the bat, but it's not Dr. Jim. It's Jim Dolan.
Hi, Jim Dolan.
I am the executive director of the Loris Foundation and co-founder of the Healer Warrior Initiative. And for all intents and purposes, Dr. Jolly, I'm a civilian. And I think I bring a unique perspective to this discussion because I really believe that the only way that we're going to be able to bring down the number of veteran suicides, which now stands at 22 a day, is if everyone at every level, and I mean the community level, begins to get involved in helping our veterans return from battle and transition into civilian life safely so that they can go on with their lives and thrive as husbands and wives and mothers and fathers. And so that's really the gist of our initiative, is to provide instruction and education and services at the community level so that veterans have options. They have choices. But I mentioned the number 22. I don't know how many in your listening audience know that that's the number of veterans that are taking their lives day after day. But it's tragically high. And when we go out into the community, we ask those that we're in contact with, we do outreach into the community, we go into the VA, and we do stand down where we work with veterans, homeless veterans, so forth. We ask people to read and sign a pledge. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to read that pledge.
Oh, please do.
The pledge reads as follows. I, and the person says or signs their name, I solemnly pledge before God and country to do everything in my power to prevent veteran suicide and to persuade others to take and honor this same solemn pledge, so help me God. And the reason that we do that is that we believe that everything starts with a commitment. And we're often have an opportunity to go out and speak, and we quote Abraham Lincoln from his second inaugural, who said that we are to bind up the wounds of the nation, we are to care for him who has borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan. And we don't believe that when Abraham Lincoln first said those words that he was talking about creating a bureaucratic structure or a Veterans Administration. We think he was talking to every individual at the time, and we think through history he's speaking to us today, that we have to pick our heads up a little bit right in the communities where we live and begin to reach out to serve these veterans who are coming back after having served so bravely.
Well, that is very dear to my heart. I've been working on this related type project for a number of years. As a matter of fact, I have a movie that a collective group of us got together and helped fund. We had a volunteer group from the Film Institute in Los Angeles work on this movie. So it's kind of an interesting movie, but it follows a brain-injured soldier through a process of his healing using hyperbaric oxygen therapy as a major contributor to the healing of the brain tissue. And I have that movie available. I'm happy to send anybody who wants it a free copy. It's called Brainstorm. Brainstorm. It's probably 45, 50-minute documentary, and it is very well done in terms of the information, and we were able to get some interviews with congressmen and senators who are aware of the work, because our group treated a general who was injured in Afghanistan and had a severe percussive injury that resulted in him being on all kinds of psych drugs, and he was also a sitting judge, and he couldn't practice anymore. His family was falling apart. Everything was falling apart, and the psych drugs were making him even worse. And he recovered. He'd had
tell me
80.
Where I can I get it online?
You know what? I don't know, but I'll be happy to send you a copy. I'm sure somewhere it's online.
Okay.
It's called Brainstorm.
I'd love to see it. We've been working with Dr. Martinucci. You and I spoke about him briefly the other day.
Yes.
He's 95 years young. Is on his third medical career. Was a medic in World War II. Went on to have a 55-plus year career as an eye, ears, nose, and throat doc here in Northern Illinois. And then at the ripe young age of 85, he started the Midwest Hyperbaric Institute. And we, like you and your previous guest, have seen tremendous results from hyperbaric oxygen therapy for a number of conditions: PTSD, mild traumatic brain injury, autism. There's just a whole host of things that are working using hyperbaric oxygen therapy, but the magic behind it is the body.
It is, amen.
And that's really where we start. I know that our topic today, one of them at least, was psychotropic drugs. You and your previous guest used the word healing probably 36 times, and psychotropic drugs do absolutely nothing to heal the human body or the human mind. They do absolutely nothing in the way of healing. And so the reason I'm on today is because the folks at Citizens Commission for Human Rights have done a tremendous job of getting the word out about the dangers and the lack of efficacy of these drugs. They put together another movie called The Hidden Enemy, and it chronicles the unholy alliance between the medical community, the psychiatric community, and Big Pharma. And what we found is that it's so pervasive, it's now become the standard of care. So when veterans go to the VA and they present with anxiety or depression or grief, some of the natural things that occur as a result of the trauma that they've suffered in battle, the very first thing that the VA will do is prescribe these very potent, highly addictive psychotropic drugs. And we believe that they're one of the main contributors to the number of 22 veterans a day killing themselves. So what we do is is very similar to your previous guest. We refer to what we do as first alternative. Complementary and alternative medicine has always been considered kind of an afterthought, something you do when everything else fails. And we're trying to turn that model on its head. We believe that alternative or natural therapies should be the first alternative, that everything should be tried before, and I even hesitate to say that, but everything should be tried before intervening with these highly addictive psychotropic drugs. So there's a number of therapies, hyperbaric oxygen therapy being one of them, but we work with people that do massage therapy, equine therapy, acupuncture, mind-body meditation, a number of things to get the body back into balance based on one premise. We do not believe that PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is a mental illness. We believe that it is a wound that needs to be healed.
Amen.
It's a wound first and foremost to the body. So that's where we start. We start with the body.
I've seen these brain SPECT scans bring up indications on the actual scan that what you're saying is an absolute fact, and that's one of the reasons why hyperbarics is effective. We can heal wounds. We can heal external wounds and watch them heal. You can't do that with the brain wounds. But you can track them with SPECT scans and behavior. We do it all the time, and it's quite amazing. I have an interesting thing that really bothers me. I wanted to ask your opinion about, and I think it's a actual fact, that every school shooting in the last 27 years, I think it's 27 years, has been perpetrated. The actual perpetrator was on psych drugs, young teenagers on psych drugs. Do you have any information to the contrary about that?
I would hesitate to say every, but most.
Okay.
There are some people who are troubled and have never been on psychotropic drugs that take other people's lives, that take their own lives. So, but the prevalence, the frequency, and the severity of these attacks is increasing daily, and it can be tracked back to someone who has either been on psychotropic drugs or has stopped taking them and is experiencing withdrawal as a result of not taking them. But I'll tell you, one of the things that we're realizing is that these drugs don't do much other than treat symptoms. And so what happens is that even though I may be asymptomatic, I present with anxiety, and they give me psychotropic drugs to deal with my anxiety. But what happens is that it alters the executive functioning part of the brain, so I may still be anxious, but I don't care. I may be depressed, but I don't care. And we think that that's taking people down a road, because once you stop caring, once you stop feeling as a human being, you stop caring for the lives of other people, and you stop caring for your own life, which leads to these murder or murder-suicides that we're seeing. We don't want people to just not care. We want them to heal. And these psychotropic drugs do absolutely nothing to heal the human body or the human brain. So I see it every day. When we go into the VA, I see these young men, 22, 23, 25 years old, walking around like zombies because they've been put on these drugs. It's the standard of care. And that's really the travesty, is that when you go in and present to a psychiatrist, by law, they have to follow what's known as the standard of care. And because the drug companies have such an incredible influence on the medical community, they dictate what the standard of care is. So a lot of these docs who would prefer not to prescribe these medications, if someone presents with suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideation, thoughts of hurting themselves or someone else, they're almost mandated to provide them with these drugs. Otherwise, they open themselves up to liability. So what we try and do is get to these veterans before they walk into the psychiatrist's office, because it's our contention that the psychiatrist's office, they have one bag and one trick in that bag, and that's pharmaceuticals.
Well, that's very true, yeah.
We partner at the community level with other community organizations to try and find these first alternatives. And again, I mentioned to you that I'm not a doctor. What I try and do is take the learning that I've been so fortunate to have been exposed to over the last 6-7 years and try and make it understandable for the general public, because we need the community. We need the public informed. We don't need them degreed. We don't need them to become psychologists or psychiatrists. We need them to become caring members of the community. So we try and keep it really simple. And we use what we call it's the Greek menu analogy. And so imagine if you walk into a restaurant and the owner gruffly says to you, sit here, order this, and hurry up, we got other customers waiting. You wouldn't really spend much time at that restaurant ever again. When you go into a Greek restaurant, half the family comes out to greet you. They take you to your table, they introduce you to your waiter or waitress, and they hand you this huge menu where you can order virtually anything you want any time of day. And that's what we need to provide with these veterans. This one-size-fits-all, one-pill-fits-all approach isn't working. So when somebody says, well, meditation is the right thing, well, what if a guy's not ready to do meditation? Well, what else do you have? Well, we have recreational therapy. Well, what if he's not ready to recreate? We have equine therapy. So what we do is we lay out a menu of things that the veteran can choose to get them started, get them on their way toward healing. When you walk into the VA, you walk into a situation where you're told what to do. You're not brought into the relationship in a consultative manner or a collaborative manner. These veterans are afraid to ask questions, to challenge the doctors. So we try and advocate for them to speak up and ask for these various alternatives. The one that we're most encouraged by, because it's very accessible, is acupuncture. And we've seen some great progress, not only in treating veterans with acupuncture, but teaching them techniques that they can use at home to take better care of themselves, their family members, and other veterans.
Well, I think this is very, very important, and I think we need to collaborate more. There's a meeting of the awards banquet coming up on the 28th of the month for the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. By any chance, might you be there?
I don't have plans to be there at the moment.
Okay.
But I'll be in touch with CCHR.
Well, I want to be able to collaborate with you a bit and share some things with you that we have, and be available to maybe assist you in any way that I can, because we all want to do the same thing. I have a real emotional investment now in this whole thing, because I've spent a lot of time down at Venice Beach and Naples area near Santa Monica, and there's an abundance of homeless veterans down there that are wandering around, literally appearing to be drunk. And I think most of them, at least that I've interacted with, are not drunk on alcohol, but they're certainly affected by the narcotics that they're taking. And they don't care. It's just what you said a little while ago. They just don't care. They're gone.
Yeah,
they're in another world.
But I tell you, that's exactly what those drugs are designed to do. They're treating symptoms in a manner that affects the executive functioning part of the brain. That's the part of the brain where we make decisions. That's the part of the brain we use to have interpersonal relationships. That's why things fall apart. These drugs are messing with that primal part of who we are. And once you get them on the road of not caring, it's not too far down the road that they're going to take their own lives, because what do they have to live for? Why would they care about continuing to live? I've sent you an email so that you and Dr. Martinucci can connect. and he's looking forward to your call. You guys will have a lot in common and a lot to share.
I am absolutely excited about the possibility of talking to him, which I will do within the next day or two at the very latest.
The one thing I think I should share with you, and I think your listening audience, is kind of part of the reason that hyperbaric oxygen therapy is not getting the kind of, although it's getting more notice, it's not getting the kind of funding, not getting the kind of support that you and I would hope that it would. If anybody has a traumatic brain injury, it's the very first thing I would recommend that they do. It's just remarkable how well the body knows how to heal itself, and oxygen is one of the things that the body needs in order to do that type of repair. But your audience should know that simply because it's not widely accepted within the medical community does not mean that it's not working effectively. You and your previous guests have seen it day in and day out how remarkable it is. But your audience should know there's a reason why it's not more popular, and that's because there is no multiplier. When I go in and I develop a drug, I go through the trials, only 2 of which need to be successful. I get it approved by the FDA, and I can start pumping out that drug by the millions. And that's where the money is.
And you can give it to them for the rest of their lives, and produce billions and billions of dollars. That's also crazy. Jim, we only have about a minute and a half left on our show, and I want to talk to you later today and make out a schedule so we can have a series of completing what you want to do and what I want to do in this communication. So we'll expect to spend some time together next week, and also I want to talk to you. So I will give you a call. If you don't hear from me like by tomorrow noonish or so, please call me, and we'll set up a time and schedule and see what we can do. And I'll get you a copy of that movie as well, The Brainstorm.
Okay.
All right.
I'll leave your audience with our web address. It's www.healerwarrior.us. That's healerwarrior.us. My contact information is there. They can feel free to contact me, and we'll put them in touch with like-minded people in their community so that they can get the help they need.
Amen. Thank you very much. God bless you. Have a great and wonderful day. We appreciate your help. And everybody, thank you very much for listening. Be open to taking responsibility for your health and your life. This is Dr. Donald Jolly Gabriel, KCAA Radio, and we're at 1050 a.m. on your radio dial. Amen. Goodbye.